Despite their below 500 record, the Portland Trail Blazers are a young and frisky team establishing an identity. Their foundation of Anthony Simons and Denny Avdia, among others, seemingly has the Pacific Northwest relishing at the potential of this squad. But the focus of this video, the jovial Scoot Henderson. I'll touch on his strengths, some areas for improvement, and potential destinations if Portland decides to part ways with the second-year guard. At the moment, Scoot's playmaking ability is my favorite part of his game. Aside from the mind-bending skip passes and half-court lobs, Scoot's manipulation of defenses and quick play recognition is what stands out to me. In terms of his manipulation of defenses, I thought this was a good example of that. A pick and roll between Scoot and his rookie big man, Donovan Clingan. Initially, Scoot has a lane to the rim, but instead he decides to pull it back out and reset. Scoot sets up a handoff with Clingan, but watch how he uses his eyes. He has his entire head pointed to the basket as though he's going to cut through the lane. Instead, he receives a handoff from Clingan, and this is a really well executed pick and roll as Scoot knows Clingan is going to flip the screen. So he plants his right foot hard into the ground, catching Jaden McDaniels off guard. Clingan slips the screen, and Gobert does a good job staying low, trying to swipe the ball away from Scoot. But Scoot has the basketball what feels like inches away from the ground. He shovels the pass to his big man, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, too late to recover. And even if he did, that's 7'2" versus 6'5". Not many guards are going to be able to block him at the rim. I thought this was another good example of Scoot's manipulation of defenses. He receives the inbound pass and gets a screen from Clingan. With Risache now trailing him, Scoot gets him on his hip. But notice how all 5 Hawks players are keen on Scoot. Not a single one of them is looking at their own assignment. Still at this point, all the Hawks defenders are focused on Scoot, his eyes pointed to the rim, as though again he's going to throw a lob or maybe take a short floater. And at the very last second, he whips a pass to the left corner for a wide open three-pointer. And as for his ability to quickly recognize openings and defenses, I thought this was a really good example of that. Again, he receives a screen from Clingan. He begins probing the defense, and I thought he did a really good job staying calm as Dante DiVincenzo tries to make a play at the ball. He nearly loses it, but he collects himself and gets back into the play. But at this moment, you can see Timberwolves rookie Rob Dillingham communicating with Naz Reid to switch. It looks like those two are telling each other who they should be guarding while simultaneously not really guarding anyone. And Scoot notices a sliver of an opening because of this miscommunication. He throws a low bounce pass away from the arms of Reid. Great catch there by Clingan and a strong finish through 2 defenders for the and one opportunity. And one more thing on Scoot's passing. If you look closely, you can tell that he's genuinely excited for his teammates. It seems like he gets great joy setting up the other players on his team. Again, not necessarily anything that showcases a specific skill, but this seems like the type of point guard I would want on my team. Scoot's ability to get paint touches and finish at the rim is also impressive to me. His footwork to throw off defenders, as well as his quick twitch muscles, make him one of the more difficult guards to contain. This first clip displays a little bit of that footwork I mentioned. So you'll see a slip screen from Kamara. It helps Scoot get an advantage against Andre Jackson Jr. After Scoot turns the corner, he takes one more dribble and gathers himself. And what makes this so impressive is having to navigate heavy traffic in the paint. Of course, you see Brook Lopez still there at the rim. Andre Jackson staying in the play. Taurean Prince lingering around as well. But the footwork here is so impressive to me as he lunges forward as much as he can with his right foot. And then another long stride with his left foot, and that throws off the timing of Lopez. And then a great reverse layup, using the rim to protect himself against the shot blocker. Just a great play by Scoot here. And as for displaying those quick twitch muscles, I thought this was a good example of that. The clock at the end of the half is winding down. Scoot gets a screen from Denny Avdia and a switch from his primary defender. Scoot starts to size up his defender, and he hits his defender with a tween cross, as the kids may say. But a really explosive move that displays his acceleration ability. I like how he shifts his entire body to the right and then a hard crossover back to the left to give himself just enough of an advantage to get downhill. And then again, we see that footwork, the long strides to throw off the timing of the defense. and an incredible finish again between two defenders. Kisses it high off the glass, giving the Blazers a 3-point lead right before the end of the half. Just another great play by Scoot. I think Scoot certainly has some room to grow as a finisher. His rookie season, he shot 50.3% within 3 feet of the basket, but he's improved that number up to 59.4% this season. So it's great to see he's making strides in this department, but he still finds himself in a different class from some of the best guard finishers in the league. I think as Scoot gets stronger, his efficiency will improve at the rim. Not only that, I do feel like he is a little ambitious at times, potentially a victim of his own success when it comes to these acrobatic layups. Just his general shot selection and reining that in could improve his efficiency as well. Knowing when to push in transition, when to pass out, etc. are all ways I think Scoot could get that number above 60 or in the mid 60s among some of the better finishers in the league. All that being said, I think he's trending in the right direction and wouldn't be shocked if moving forward, we're talking about Scoot in that elite class of guard finishers. Speaking of shot selection, I wanted to briefly talk about Scoot as a 3-point shooter. His efficiency from beyond the arc may be an indicator that he'll never be a premier long-range shooter during his career. His rookie season, he shot 32.5% from 3. This season, about 36.5%. But one thing that stood out to me is his willingness to take threes when his defenders go under screens. I think that's a positive for 2 reasons. One, it just speaks to his awareness of understanding that he's going to have a lot of open shots because of this. But 2, it won't put him in a box throughout his career, as defenders will have to honor him as a shooter, and I think that just makes him more of a versatile offensive threat. And so while Scoot may never develop into the Steph Currys of the world, I do think what he has showcased in his first 2 seasons in the league is an indicator that he will be a capable 3-point shooter down the line. And as for Scoot's defense, I feel like he has his moments as an on-ball defender, but I think he really thrives off the ball. His anticipation and strong hands are really what pops on film. He does have a football background, so that could play into what makes him so effective on this end of the floor. I thought this was a really good example displaying that anticipation and just ability to read and react to an offense. So you'll see here, Scoot is defending Benedict Mathurin all the way in the left corner. On the ball, Anthony Simons is defending Andrew Nembhard. Nembhard rejects the screen and gets a little bit of a step on Simons. And you can see Robert Williams pointing to Simons, telling him to switch onto Miles Turner. But instead, Simons sticks with Nembhard, leaving Turner wide open. Nembhard does a really good job using the ball fake, and that shifts not only Simons, but also Jeremy Grant on the left wing. And that leaves an opening for Pascal Siakam to cut to the rim. But Scoot is watching this whole play unfold. He notices Pascal's already making his attack to the basket, Nembhard loading up to throw this pass, and in a split second, he beats Pascal to the ball and comes up with the steal. It's one of those plays that might not seem very impressive, but I feel like it really speaks to Scoot's ability as an off-ball defender, and I feel like he's going to make a lot of plays in that role throughout his career. I mentioned at the start of this video I would discuss some potential landing spots for Scoot if Portland decides to move on from him. I'm not saying they should move on from Scoot, but Portland's roster construction with Simons, Avdia, and even Shaedon Sharpe at times make up a good crop of decision makers who can orchestrate an offense, making Scoot's skill set a little redundant. That being said, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves and New Orleans Pelicans could be great fits for Scoot. Minnesota, with their core of Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert and company, is great, but Mike Conley is seemingly aging out of that starting point guard position. And while Rob Dillingham has showcased some great flashes during his rookie season, I'm not sure he's exactly the type of point guard the Timberwolves want running that offense long term. And as for New Orleans, they also have a great young core with Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and Yves Missi. If New Orleans decides to move on from DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum, that would open up a spot for Scoot to play with some great up-and-coming players like himself. I've always been a big fan of Scoot, and while some may think he hasn't lived up to his draft day expectations just yet, I think there's a lot to like about his game at the moment and looking down the road. His combination of playmaking, athleticism, and utter jubilation makes me believe he's going to be a mainstay in the NBA for years to come. And to me, I think it'll come down to just finding that ideal situation for him to showcase his full potential.